Welcome back to the Midlife by Design podcast. I'm your host, Lori Lisai, and I am a human design teacher and alignment coach, here to help midlife women use human design to shed others' expectations and be who you came here to be. In today's episode, I'm talking about this zero fucks idea and how to leverage the power of your HD heart center to actually care less about what other people think and more about being true to yourself. Heads up that I dropped the F-bomb maybe about 100 times or so if you need to grab some headphones, now is your time. Let's dive in. So what if living your life for you, truly for you, sometimes means disappointing others? Because it does. And today we're going to talk about how and why that is perfectly okay when you tune into your specific worth and your specific desires, especially in midlife, by understanding the heart center in human design. So let's get into it. First of all, I want to define the difference between this idea of zero fucks given and selfishness. So when you give zero fucks, it's about reclaiming your worth and your desires and living from a place of clarity in what you want and need. So it's not about being indifferent, but it's actually the opposite, being comfortable with being different. So you're not going around worrying about what other people think and about every single action that you take and how people are going to take it. That's the zero fucks given model. Contrast that with selfishness. And the thing about selfishness is it's this construct that has been created because we live in a society where we rely on each other, right? And when people are selfish, then they are not available to help us, and it can be frustrating and disappointing. And there are definitely times when you can take selfishness to the nth degree and really cause damage for other people. I'm not suggesting that you go so far as to do that, but more that you start thinking about how do you prioritize your happiness and realizing that prioritizing your happiness is not selfish. It's actually necessary for living authentically. So I don't know if any of you have ever read the book by Mark Manson called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, but he explores this idea throughout the book, and essentially his thinking is we have little time during the day when we can actually give a fuck. And since we have limited fucks, we really need to think about how we want to spend them, so to speak. If we waste them on things that feel irrelevant or people that don't matter to us, then we don't have any fucks left to give to the people who do matter to us or to the things that we really want to pursue. And Manson says, quote, "You and everyone you know are going to be dead soon. And in the short amount of time between here and there, you have a limited amount of fucks to give. Very few, in fact. And if you go around giving a fuck about everything and everyone without conscious thought or choice, well, then you're going to get fucked." Mark Manson, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and I would agree with that. So let's talk about where the heart center comes in. The heart center in human design, if you're looking at your chart, is the smallest little triangle that is on the right-hand side of the chart above the emotional solar plexus and just below the identity center. That's that little guy. And that is the center that holds the root of what we want. It holds also our motivation and our drive to stand up for what we deserve and willpower. For today's purposes, though, we're talking specifically about this component of our desires. So I know a lot of the women that I work with have lost connection with what do I even want these days, and how can I even verbalize that, because it feels so selfish. It feels like I can't even want. I don't let myself want these things, because if I let myself want these things, then I let hope in for having these things. And if I actually had these things, then that would either disappoint people or destroy the life that I'm living or cause some kind of other havoc. So this is all stuff that lives in the heart center. And so it's a question that I invite you to get curious about, is whether or not you are connected with what you truly want, or if you're living based on what other people expect of you. Obviously, we're growing up female and we face a lot of conditioning as women, where we are taught to downplay our own needs in order to take care of others, or to be small. This idea of not being too much is super important to the paradigm in which we are currently living and shifting out of. And this can definitely lead to some issues with your heart center, and where it makes it really difficult to feel worthy or to feel like you can stand firm in what you want. So 63% of the population has this center undefined, which means if you're looking at your chart, it's not colored in. And 37% have it defined. So definitely a smaller part of the population has this consistent access to feeling that sense of worthiness, that sense of knowing what they want, versus those people who have it undefined. That feeling is inconsistent. They don't always know what they want. They struggle potentially with feelings of worthiness. Because of that percentage breakdown, you can see that over half of us, myself included, can really struggle with this. So I think, though, that as women in midlife, this is the time to reclaim the right to want those things without guilt. A question for you to ask yourself is, where in your life have you been suppressing your desires or potentially making yourself small in order to please others? I also invite you to check out episode 18 for a dive into how your profile can support you with breaking the cycle of people pleasing. That was a dynamite episode to give you yet another tool from human design. So I've been talking a lot about the wild woman archetype, and remember that embracing this wild woman part of you means embracing all parts of yourself, including those desires. And this idea of owning your worth is one that's divine, not selfish. And it's a chance for you to be unapologetic by aligning with what is truly on your heart and owning what you want unapologetically, which is that component of being wild. It's the no longer people pleasing and doing things for other people, but instead stepping into, it doesn't matter if somebody else judges me because I'm taking this action. So I actually dressed for this episode on purpose. Dressed, and by dressed, I mean I am showing up today with my running clothes on and my running fleece and no makeup, and I've threw my hair back in a ponytail and got my glasses on, and oftentimes I will take a shower and get ready for the pod, and there are some times when I really want to do that. And then today I just had this feeling like, this is what I need to talk about, and I'm not going to do that because I don't give a fuck what I look like right now. I want you to just hear the words that I'm saying and the passion with which I'm saying them. And I also wanted to model for you, this is one way, to be able to show that is like, go to the grocery store without makeup. Shout out to Pamela Anderson, who is just busting down doors for us to see how we can redefine beauty as we age. So back to this idea of being unapologetic and the idea that you only have so many minutes in the day, and being able to spend them on what you care about is an invitation for you to get clear on what you care about and how you spend them, and then get ruthless with what you cut out. So I think we have this view of super successful people around us that have no flaws. And it's easy to look at celebrities or look at people on social and focus on their success, and we forget that they're whole humans. They've got stinky farts and ingrown toenails and hairs where they don't want them, just like we do. And we have to remember that we are all of those things and so much more. We can blow out a room with bean burrito farts, and we can still light up that same room with our genius. It's not one or the other. It's both and. And I think that helping ourselves to understand that we are whole humans and that we can still be loved and are lovable, warts and all, that this will help us to further step into that unapologetic feeling. And when I say that we are lovable, I am not talking about the love from other people, that validation from other people. It's like you can love yourself because you are a full, whole human, farts and all. So what is on your heart and in your desires, I believe truly is there for a reason. I believe it's that God-given, universe-given, whatever word you want to use, gift, that if it comes into your awareness, the fact that it comes into your awareness at all, there's such a small, tiny, infinitesimal percentage chance that it would come into your awareness as to be just about impossible. That the fact that it's there and that you are having a response to it, that it excites you, that it pulls you, that you want it, tells me that your soul came here for it, that you are here to experience it. And to deny that is denying part of your soul's purpose. And I know you don't want to do that. So I want to talk about this idea of it's none of your business what other people think. This is something that is super easy to say, like, don't care what other people think. But the reality is, like, as midlife women, we've been focused on external opinions for decades. And this kind of work does take intention, and it takes time, and it takes patience with yourself, because it can feel nearly impossible to detach from other people's judgments, because it's that belonging piece, and that belonging piece is tied to safety, and the safety is tied to that instinct, that core need of a human. But the more that you work to redefine that, the more that you work to reframe that narrative in your head, that's the healing you're doing for not only yourself, but for future generations. So the best part is, of course, that human design will offer you a roadmap for making the shift. So the heart center, let's dig in a little bit more. With a defined heart center, you've got this consistent access to self-worth. And the lower expression of having the defined heart can be if you feel like you're being seen as selfish, or you find yourself seeking validation for your achievements in order to feel worthy. Because you've got consistent willpower, you can push through things and accomplish a lot. And because of that, it often leads to, oh, well, I did this thing, therefore I am worthy. That's also wrapped up in capitalism, let's just be real. But this is one of the lower expressions of this. But you can release that need by trusting that your worth doesn't depend on others' opinions or praise. And in fact, when you're connected to your heart's wants, then external validation becomes less important, because we are all worthy. Every single human being here is worthy because we are star stuff. We're made of the same stuff of the universe, and there's no one part that's any less worthy than the other. So undefined hearts are oftentimes going to struggle with fluctuating feelings of worth. And you might find yourself overcompensating to prove something, to prove your worth, to prove your value. And oftentimes that can lead to people-pleasing behavior where you want to do something or you're taking some action because you believe that it's going to make someone else happy or garner somebody else's approval. But your growth happens when you're recognizing that you're worthy, just who you are, without needing that external validation. I do have some practices that I'm going to talk about in a little bit, with the 5 line coming in hot for you guys about some things that you can do to support that. So a couple of other components of human design that I want to talk about to help support you doing these things, like really tuning into that true self and those desires. So as you know, human design teaches that every person has a unique authority, which is that inner compass for making decisions that are in alignment with who you truly are. And when you learn your authority and you start practicing with using it, you become a lot less needy for external validation because you're beginning to trust yourself first and foremost. A couple of examples of that: emotional authorities, 50% of us, your clarity is going to come over time. And if you're feeling this push to make a decision based on what others think, just give yourself the gift of time. Ride out the emotional wave before you're deciding. Don't make a decision right in the moment when you're in an emotional high or low, but instead, just give yourself some time. So pause, ask yourself, am I making this choice because I truly want it or because I fear what other people will think if I don't make this decision? Another example would be sacral authority, where if your gut is leading you towards something that excites you and it energizes you, you want to listen to that kind of approach. You want to listen to those responses. That's what's going to help lead you toward what you want. You're going to be able to bypass the mind, where the mind is going to have that tendency to seek approval from other people. It's going to get into a loop and start questioning, well, is this really right for me, etc., etc. Instead, just tune into your body. We can also talk about using your human design type. So generators, manifesting generators, projectors, manifestors, reflectors. You've got your aura that interacts with the world in a different way. And if you can align with that, that can help you to discern what is right for you. So generators and manifesting generators are designed to respond. When you're responding to something that lights you up, that feels exciting, that feels energizing, then you feel satisfied and aligned. And if you can shift your focus from what others are expecting of you to what actually energizes you, then that's going to reduce your temptation to seek approval, and it keeps you grounded in your own joy. So a tip here would be, every time you make a decision, asking yourself, does this energize me? Instead of, am I doing this to make somebody happy? Projectors are designed to guide others, specifically when you're recognized or invited. So instead of seeking validation from everybody, you're going to focus on honing your unique perspective and your wisdom. And when you own those gifts, then the right recognition comes naturally. You can start affirming your worthiness to yourself and trusting that your guidance is going to be seen by those who truly value you. And I'm going to give an example right now. A projector friend of mine has an incredible design eye, and she's got a 2 line in her profile, does not give herself enough credit for this amazing talent that she has. And she just recently posted some photos of a kitchen remodel. And I reached out to her and told her, you are amazing at this. Have you ever thought about helping people with this? And that is an invitation. And for her, it gives a sense of like, oh, this is what somebody is seeing in me. I know that she loves this. And that invitation is not getting my approval. It's more like, oh, I'm getting this invitation. And if I feel like this is aligned for me, then that's something that I could think about doing. Manifestors are trailblazers. They are here to initiate. They're here to be our fire starters. So instead of shrinking to fit in or worrying about what other people are going to think about your crazy ideas or bold actions, you've got to just inform people who matter and remember that you're not here to be liked by everyone. And remind yourself that if you're feeling the urge to start something, you're not here to seek permission or approval. In fact, you are here to lead. And then reflectors, your strength lies in your ability to reflect the energy of your environment. So rather than focusing on how other people are perceiving you, you want to intentionally surround yourself with the right environment and people who uplift and inspire you. And trust that you're simply doing your part by being in the right space. So it would be important for you to regularly evaluate your environment. And if it doesn't feel good to you, think about how you can make changes pronto. So the elements of your human design, they all work together. Remember, we're whole humans, and these are just elements to work with as tools to help you during this transition to the zero fucks era. So I mentioned earlier that I'm going to give you some practical steps to let go of that external validation. And the first one is trying some meditation or breath work, which you probably hear often. And you know what? It's for a reason. Meditation and breath work is tapping you into your subconscious theta brainwave state. And that is the state you need to be in order to reprogram your brain. And when you reprogram your brain, you're putting in a new program to run, and you can get different results by doing so. So creating a daily practice of grounding yourself and clearing your mind of all the shit is so super important. And if you can spend this time focusing on your breath and visualizing yourself in the kind of life and the kind of world that you wish for, this is going to help you move into this new phase so quickly. It's one of those tools that can truly be a quantum leap kind of tool. In terms of physical tools, simply opening up your heart center with stretches can be also super useful. So clasping your hands behind you, raising your heart to the sky, breathing in and out, opening up and moving your shoulders down and out. This is something that I have to work on. I don't do it enough either. So this advice is for myself. I'm always hunched over my computer. And so just remembering to take a break every day and do that stretch and open up. And there's a vulnerability in that stretch too, right? It's like you're really opening up and being kind and gentle with yourself about that, and noticing your discomfort is one way to help lessen it. You know, it's like naming it takes its power away. Another tip is to reflect in journaling how you've been living either in alignment or out of alignment from your heart center. If you have an undefined heart, where have you been trying to prove yourself? And if you have a defined heart, have you been ignoring what you want? Daily affirmations are another tip that especially work for defined throats. Undefined throats can absolutely use affirmations as well, but just know that for defined throats, this is a tool that I like to use for them. They reinforce your connection to the heart center because you're moving that energy up and out the throat. The throat is the manifestation center. So especially if you happen to have your heart center connected to your throat, this is a really great practice. So if your heart center is defined, saying something like, I know what I want and what I deserve, clear and simple, that helps to clear away any uncertainties. If it's undefined, saying something like, I have nothing to prove because I am inherently worthy. Reminding yourself of that. Of course, regular human design check-ins, like looking at your chart and reminding yourself of the different pieces of what your energy tells you about yourself, getting a reading, book a session with me and let's dissect it together. Or surround yourself, especially surround yourself with other women who are doing the work. And I invite you to join me on my retreat in Costa Rica in March when we will be doing this work and you will be in community of women inspiring you, showing you what it looks like. So I believe that by using these tools, you can start to detach yourself from the pressure of those external opinions and step into your true, authentic self. And when you live from a place of alignment with your heart center, with your type, with your strategy, with your authority, that's when what others think becomes none of your business and you really don't care. It really doesn't matter. So thank you so much for listening. I want to invite you to dive into a human design session with me. Let's look at your heart center. Let's look at the gates in particular that happen to be defined or undefined there and how they play out in your life. I would also encourage you to, if you're curious about human design and how it can help you live more authentically in this midlife phase, hit that subscribe button because I'm diving deep every single episode with tools that you can use to transform this midlife. And then just to wrap up, I would love to remind you one last time that you are worthy of every desire that your heart speaks to you. Midlife, this time in your life, is time to reclaim those desires without guilt and step into the life that you came here to live. Thank you so much for listening to Midlife by Design today. If you want to surround yourself with other women who don't give a fuck and be inspired and supported to learn to do the same, the Wild Women by Design retreat is the perfect place for you. And listen, early bird pricing ends on October 31st, so snag your spot today for the best rate. And if you'd like to chat about it first to make sure that it's a good fit, then feel free to grab a spot on my calendar. I've left the link in the show notes. As I sign off, I'm sending you the strength to let go of all the fucks but the ones that matter most to you, joy to fill your days and your heart center, and the clarity to be who you came here to be.